Oh, guys, good, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. The Gloomy Next Door production.
The 1970s and 80s had Elbow, Gravy Train, Purina, Meow Mix, and Bell Bottoms. You've changed your clothes, now change how you feed your pet. Like Bell Bottoms, kick the kibble and join us in the 21st century with the healthiest diet for dogs and cats. Feed naturally, feed raw, feed fishing foods.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm everybody's friend.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to another fun-filled and informative episode of The Groomer Next Door. I'm your host, Chris Green, and joining us this week is Lindsay Rubin. She is with a company called VDog. VDog is one of the companies that is actually hoping that the Los Angeles City Council will rule for the favor of changing the meat dry kibble to a plant base. So she will tell us all about that and much more in just a moment. But before then, let's dive into the fact of the week. Now, staying in this vegan-only kind of facts of the week, let's see what this week brings for us. In the mid-1940s, a vegan was simply a non-dairy vegetarian. Later, the term included abstinence from animal products such as leather and honey. Interesting. And now it's just anything that has any kind of meat product in it, which I completely understand. I remember we did an episode on animal byproducts and everything that went into our own personal equipment, whether it was TVs or clothing or housing. I mean, it is crazy how much goes into it. And to really be a 100% dedicated vegan is a lot of work and probably a lot of commitment and dedication. And for that, I mean, I commend them completely. I don't have that kind of willpower. I can barely stay away from the Oreos. So just imagine if I actually had to stay away from everything. Now, meat-wise, it's very easy for me to stay away from, but I'm pretty sure Oreos have some kind of dairy. So I would have to go with a different kind of Oreo. And I would have to give up milk, and I just can't do that. I can be a vegetarian, can't be a vegan. Thank you, cheese and milk, you have ruined me. Well, by that sound, Lindsay is about to enter the podcast studio. So with that said, welcome Lindsay Rubin from VDog to the podcast.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, we are joined by Lindsay Rubin, and she is with VDog. And you have so much to actually share with us that I'm just going to give you the floor and say thank you for being on the podcast, and let's just go have some fun with this.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on, Chris.
It's a pleasure. Now, you know, the interesting thing about plant-based is the emotion that's going with it. You have a multitude of different things out there. You have conflicting articles. You have science here. You got science there. But you know what I never do see is real conversations with the people who are doing the work. And that's what this is all about. So let's start off with the origin story of VDog, if you don't mind, and take us through how it all began.
Sure thing. So VDog got started back in 2005, so it's been about 13 years at this point that we've been around. Our founder, Dave, started the company. Basically, he had a couple of rescue pit bulls, him and his wife, Linda, and there was just nothing out on the market that they felt incredible about feeding their dog. Nothing vegan and complete and balanced and with the ingredients that they were just super excited about. So he started his own here in the States, and we've grown from there. So we started with our kibble, which is complete and balanced. It's a pea-based formula with lots of healthy other plant-based ingredients. And then over the years, we've added in a few other products, some treats and chews called Breastbones. We're a team of dog parents, vegans, animal lovers. So it's really important to us to carry on Dave's mission since he did suddenly pass away several years ago. So we're all holding down the fort here and just so overjoyed to still be here and have a team of such passionate, incredible dog lovers working so hard over here to get everything done.
I didn't actually know that he passed away. That's really sad. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Well, it's always, I'm pretty sure he was not, up there in age. So that's always one of those probably sudden things that happen. And that's always unfortunate. Tell us your origin story and how you got started really in every aspect of who makes Lindsay Rubin who she is.
Wow. Okay. So related to VDog, I am originally from New York and I moved out to California about 5 years ago. I've always been a really big animal lover, passionate vegan individual. So that led me to thinking about what am I feeding my dog and do I need to feed my dog meat? And that's actually when I first discovered VDog for my older dog, Riley. I discovered it right before I moved to California. And then once I was there, I was in the Sacramento area. I found out that VDog was based there at the time. We've been in San Francisco here for a couple of years now, but we used to be back in Sacramento. Kind of long story short, I ended up weaseling my way into a meeting with Dave, and the rest is history. We're still a small business, but we were even smaller back then. So I started out with a smaller role, and just kind of been so grateful to grow with the company. And we're a family business still, so we all have a lot of input and everyone's perspective and opinions are really valued in everything that we do. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm so proud of how far we've come, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it all.
What is the differences between, and perception-wise, because obviously weather is going to be a difference, but perception-wise when it comes to our pets on the East Coast to the West Coast, what are the differences?
Oh boy. I think the main differences are with the age groups, and I think it carries through pretty similarly from East to West Coast with our age group, which are known as millennials, which is always funny when I admit that that's what I am. But we're just so obsessed with our pets, and they're our babies. And I think that holds pretty true from East to West Coast. And I know that expands beyond age. And I think it's just generally a trend of more and more people just wanting the best for their dog, wanting to feed them the best, wanting to provide them the best, everything under the sun, and just totally spoiling them. So I would guess that it's pretty similar from East to West. And the people that we deal with our customers are just so incredible, and we're always exchanging funny stories and amazing photos and such silly, cute things. And we're all just like, typical dog moms and dads here, and it's never a dull moment. So,
well, notice, obviously weather is going to play big time parts. You can't go, and of course I'm going to hit a little bit of a sore subject, but you can't actually take your dog to a dog park in New York around this time. You can't even take a dog really to a dog park here in the Midwest at this time of year. So California really does lend that opportunity that very few places do. You really have to be on the West Coast to be able to go out almost any time with your dog. And that's the only thing I was thinking. And perception-wise, I've noticed whether you're on the East Coast or West Coast, people are looking at dogs and cats as family, opposed to the old mentality, the old guard of how it was just property. That is just the hard part for me. At least it still is.
Definitely. And we're lucky to we're in beautiful San Francisco, and we have some amazing beaches here, and nearby. So we have done some really fun meetups where we get a bunch of local pet parents and their dogs together, and we just kind of like hang out on the beach and eat vegan snacks and give out treats and stuff. So we've been grateful to be able to do that, I guess, whereas if we were in New York, it would be a little bit trickier, but that's definitely true.
A little bit, just a little bit. But, it's funny. The other day, Lindsay sends me an email, says how, I think it went on to something like, well, the fog is rolling in. Oh, and I'm thinking to myself, God, I miss that so much. I love downtown San Francisco. There's just nothing better than that place in the world. I swear, I don't think I've actually found anything better. And I'm just like sitting here going, I'm so envious.
Yeah, we love it. It's incredible. I won't downplay that at all. I hope I'm not making anyone too jealous, including you, but it's wonderful.
Little bit, but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, hey, while we're recording this, it's about 5 degrees where I'm at. You have a nice little heat rave where you're at. So, yeah, we're all, it's different. Well, you know what? I wanted to actually go over this part before we do anything. Actually, you know what? Let's go to the soapbox moment, because that's obviously always something I'm always curious about, especially with your unique twist on everything. What is your soapbox moment that you tend to have or internally have? Because I've noticed that's also a case. A lot of people have internal monologues that they're having in different stores or events.
Sure. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind for me, for my soapbox moment, would be our struggle with battling a lot of the misinformation on the internet. And I think the thing that really gets me and a lot of us here is when people say it's animal abuse to feed your dog a complete vegan diet. Because to us, that just blows our minds, because the way that animals are treated in the traditional farming system, factory farming, which contributes to more than 95% of the meat that we and dogs consume, they're just treated horribly. And for us to be able to provide a product that kills no animals and allows your dog to thrive and be so happy and have complete nourishment and love mealtime, just there's no deprivation and there's no killing of animals. Additionally, it's beneficial to the environment for land and water saved. So I would say that's the thing that gets me most, but we're really proud to always approach it in a really positive, kind way. We never want anyone to feel attacked or upset. We're just here to kind of provide the facts and be like, we love animals. This food is super healthy and nutritious for dogs. They love the taste. If we can make that happen, we're going to do it, and we're proud to do it.
Good point. Now, I asked this in our other interview with Vicado. I wanted to make sure to give you the opportunity to not only speak to, well, it's like a two-part, speak to actual consumers, people who are on the fence. Maybe they still actually have a dry kibble that is meat-based. Maybe they're a raw feeder. Whatever the case may be, first question is what would you like to tell them so that you can give them peace of mind?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would mention is that, like I mentioned before, there is a lot of misinformation and conflicting information on the internet. So we do our best to provide the facts on our website through scientific journals and lots of good stuff like that, veterinarian info. And we are always happy to answer questions on phone calls or emails. But the most important thing is that a diet like VDOG is complete and balanced. It's a food just like a meat-based food, but higher quality in that there's no animal products, corn, soy, or wheat. So you can feel really confident feeding this to your dog. There's a lot of questions that are floating around as far as, will my dog be happy? Will they feel deprived? Will they be healthy long term? And we answer a lot of those questions on our website. But in short, the dogs do so well on the formula. We've been in business for over 13 years, and we've never had a dog with a nutrient deficiency related to our food, since it is complete and balanced. And the other facet of it, and we talk a lot about this on our testimonials page with lots of true stories, is the allergy component. I mean, so many dogs are itchy and they have tummy problems, they have skin problems, and we've seen such miraculous results in dogs with those sorts of ailments. And we know how common they are. And basically our formula is really easily digestible and doesn't contain any of those allergy-prone ingredients like all of the animal products or corn, soy, or wheat. So yeah, those are kind of a couple of the main components that I wanted to share with anyone considering this type of food. And the dogs love the taste. I think that's what's really important to note too. We have so many people that tell us that their dogs will choose, you do a transition period with the old food and then you add VDOG in there and you kind of sprinkle it in and do the transition period. A lot of times the dogs will choose the VDOG themselves over the old meat-based kibble. And we do hear that often. But yeah, they really love it and they're so healthy and vibrant and amazing, the dogs eating this food.
Perfect. Now the next part of that, now it gets a little trickier. To all the veterinarians out there who oppose, because again, I'm going to base everything on the internet here, which unfortunately we're kind of all handcuffed to. But, you see it all the time as well. You see how a lot of veterinarians like to, voice up and they're like, no, and I'm going to speak for the ones that are the ones that actually like the big pet food companies. No, you can't do anything except for our product. But because that's really what it comes down to is those are the ones that I'm targeting here is the big commercial pet food companies. But what about to the veterinarians that actually are holistic, that are still on the fence or not swayed yet to a plant-based diet? What do you have to say to them to kind of convince them that this actually is viable?
Sure. Yeah. First, I'd like to mention that we do work with a group of veterinarians who all support or endorse this type of diet for dogs, and we have that info on our website. The first one that comes to mind is Dr. Pitcairn. He's a holistic veterinarian and has lots of really great information on the topic. And I think it's kind of twofold as far as speaking to veterinarians. I think the first is we have been around for so long and the dogs do so well on this formula. We have so many thousands of dogs thriving. So the evidence is really in these dogs and are healthy and happy, and some of them are living into their 20s and they're doing so well. And additionally, it's really ethics. I mean, veterinarians and dog parents, we're all animal lovers and we want to be able to do the least harm. So if there's something that our dogs can thrive on and obtain nourishment from and also happiness from, they love the taste and it doesn't harm any animals, then we say, why not? It's kind of the thought of the whole humane meat movement. It's kind of saying, let's do something better. But the way that I think about it is, why do something better if you can do something the best? Why kill an animal in a different, apparently less humane way when you can just not kill an animal at all and provide your domestic pet with complete nourishment without harming any animal?
Well said. Now, the part that really interests me and was part of our pre-discussion that we had before we even started doing this was the fact that you were there for this entire conference movement, I guess, in the Los Angeles City Council meeting when they actually proposed the possibility to change from the dry kibble that's meat-based to a plant-based. So I'm curious what went on during that meeting and how much you can actually talk about, and just kind of guide us through all that and shed some light on it, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So there have been 2 hearings so far. I was present at the second one where what they were voting on was whether or not they should do, they should study whether a plant-based diet for the dogs at the LAAS is feasible. So what they voted yes on was compiling as much information as possible. So that's what the vote was on that last hearing in December there. So my experience, I was there just kind of listening in. They started off the meeting kind of taking general concerns and issues from the community, and then they kind of rolled into the topic of potentially switching the dogs at the LA Animal Services to the vegan diet. And they opened up the floor. People had to kind of submit a card in advance with their name on it, I believe. So there was something, oh geez, I can't remember the number, but there was a good amount of people, I want to say like 50, who submitted a card for a chance to speak. And since there were so many, the normal speaking time was a minute, and that's what people planned their little speech for. But they had to shorten it to, I believe, 30 seconds. So it was super rapid fire. So everyone kind of stepped up when their name was called and spoke about their opinion or their experience with their dog being on a vegan diet. Or there was a wonderful gentleman who spoke about their sanctuary and how their dogs are all fed vegan. There was another wonderful woman from a dog rescue called Beeple's Buddies in LA, and she rescues all like really high at-risk senior dogs. They're all vegan on vegan diets. She talked about their blood work and how incredible and healing the diets have been. So those are some of the ones that stood out to me as far as the people that went up to speak. I would say, I believe it was something like 96% of the comments that people submitted were positive and in favor of switching the dogs to a vegan diet for various components such as improvement in health, ethics, since the LA Animal Services not only rescues dogs and cats, they also rescue farm animals. Apparently they also rescue pigs and I believe chickens. So some people highlighted that a little bit. If we can feed these dogs an ethical meatless dog food at the same or lower price than the current formula that they're feeding, which is Canidae, it seems like a good solution, a good possibility. So the response was really overwhelmingly positive, and everyone really had an opportunity to come and speak. Only, I think, 2 people spoke negatively about the possible switch. And someone brought up, I wish more people would have known about this and they would have come and spoke out. But my experience, we sent out a newsletter at VDOG to thousands of people. I know that there was a veterinarian who opposed the switch, sent out tons of information to, I imagine, also thousands of people. It was on social media, lots of circulation. So I really do think there was an opportunity for anyone who felt passionate to come and speak. And the community was just overwhelmingly positive, the community that was present there. So everyone kind of went up and spoke, and it was, I want to say it was like an hour of speaking. And then at the end, the commissioners voted yes on doing the further study on whether it's feasible or not. So basically they're just working on compiling more information, and where it has left off is there will be another hearing sometime in February.
That's what I've heard so far as well. Now, I know VDOG actually put a bid in. Now, do you remember offhand how much it's costing the LA City for them to feed their meat base?
I believe the number that they've put out publicly is 87 cents.
Okay.
I definitely could look that up for you, but yeah, they have the number public for what they pay for the Canidae per pound.
That's what I was between 85 and 89. I thought it was like 87 or 89 cents per. And now, roughly, what was the bid by VDOG, if I may ask?
Sure. Basically, the bid for our brand and I believe Halo and I think Natural Balance were all willing to come in at the same or slightly lower price. So the price really isn't an issue at all. And there was some misinformation published, and we have a compilation of all of the PR and news around the topic. And a bunch of them said, why would we pay more for vegan dog food? And they were kind of upset, but it's just the reality is that's not the case. The price will be matched or lowered if they do make the switch. So that's not an issue.
Now, I've heard this in different reviews and different articles have said this, that they say that Halo, and just again, it's just speculation, is the front runner because it's an Ellen DeGeneres brand. Is that play any kind of role in any of this, or are you just completely confident that VDOG is the top company out there and will get this contract?
Sure. I'm not sure about that related to the whole Ellen DeGeneres thing, but what I do know is that the people really passionate and pushing for this. Obviously the first goal is the health of the dogs, which is our goal at VDOG. Additionally, people are really pushing for this as an ethical issue why rescue some animals and feed those same kind of animals to our pets? Therefore, VDOG would be the optimal choice since we're a vegan owned and operated company. We don't manufacture any products with animals in them, whereas Halo does. So they have one vegan flavor, but they have many, many other meat-based flavors. So that's what comes to mind as far as the first comparison. If, everyone's pushing super hard to get everything aligned ethically, that's why we think VDOG would make a lot of sense in that realm.
I was going to say to add in VDOG's better than Halo, correct? Just want to throw that in there. just want to stir the pot.
I've definitely, you're definitely asking a biased source, but we think so. And I think really mainly we're so proud of our mission. And Halo, I think that it's wonderful and they're providing this option. And we've heard dogs do well, and I'm not going to say anything negative because we appreciate other vegan brands and products, but obviously I'm biased and our formula is so great and the dogs do so well on it, and it's just a really wholesome, nourishing food.
But I want you to say something negative. That's what I'm here for.
Chris, come on.
I'm the immature one. I have to do this. This is just part of the game. Well, let's go into product line, because that's going to be an interesting topic, because really it's not like you guys have gone way over the rainbow and you're making a million different things. You have a very simple plan, which does help, especially in this type of industry. Less is more, and you don't have to lose yourself in complication. Now, you guys have the VDOG Kinder Kibble, which is for regular size kibble, and then you have the VDOG Kinder, the mini kibble, for smaller dogs. So let's go into those first and kind of kick that around a little bit and figure out everything that's going on with those products and just kind of understand it a little bit better.
Absolutely. So you are not alone, but it's actually Kinder Kibble. So
Kinder.
Lots of people say Kinder. It's like definitely looks how it's pronounced, but the goal is that it's the kindest dog food on the market. So it's Kinder Kibble, and we have one formula and two sizes of the kibbles. So we have a couple of big bags, 30 and 20 pound of our Kinder Kibble. Those are kind of regular size bites. So they're like the size of a dime, the kibble pieces. And then we recently came out with our small bags that have mini bites. And those are small little kibbles, good for dogs with chewing problems or just like teeny tiny, adorable little dogs. But they're the same formula, and it's pea-based, pea protein, lots of other good yummy ingredients in there.
Now, one thing that always kind of raises my questions when it comes to anything plant-based is that we are putting more starch in the actual food to kind of supplement the protein. Is that ever become an issue or a concern by you guys, or is it a customer or any kind of naysayers ever brought that into the fold to saying, hey, you know what, we have a little bit too much starch. How do we actually work through that?
Sure. So the protein content of VDOG Kibble is 24%. So it has plenty of protein in it, mostly from peas and pea protein. The starch content really hasn't given us any issues. I mean, the things that you would be concerned about, maybe you're thinking like weight gain or any sort of like allergies or yeast infection or ear infection types of things. And we've only seen the opposite. We've seen dogs who are overweight slim down. We see so many dogs, itchy tummy problems. Their dog parents have tried everything under the sun, from raw meat to other high quality kibbles to home cooking meat, home cooking vegan. And the only thing that works is VDOG. And that just makes us so happy, because we know what it's like to have a dog at home just constantly itching or like having tummy troubles or not eating because their tummy hurts or they're just not interested in food. And then you put this bowl of VDOG in front of them and it smells like nothing they've ever smelled before. It smells like fresh peas, and they just get so excited about it. We have so many videos, and then you give it a couple of weeks and their hair is growing back and they have normal digestion. They're excited about mealtime. So the starch really hasn't been an issue at all for any of the things you might be worried about. Additionally, we see lots of blood panels on our customers, and they always come back stellar. My 3 dogs have all been V-dogs most of their lives, and they get regular blood checkups. They're doing great, including my senior boy, who everyone thinks is a puppy, and everyone who's listening is probably so tired of hearing that story, so I won't elaborate on it. Basically, everyone thinks he's a puppy, even though he's 11, and he's almost 12 now. But yeah, he's super, super spry and still can jump super high in the air, and he's a whippet still. He's got some ups.
I'll share this part. But there was, last time I spoke with Lindsay, you were in New York, and it was just such a trying experience for you, because here are your pups back in the Bay Area, and unfortunately, something really unfortunate happened, and that must have been just challenging to be so far on the other side of the country, and then to hear, oh, there's a problem. And I don't know how much you want to talk about that one, but I think it shows to raise awareness on what to be careful for. So that's why I kind of brought that into this conversation.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to elaborate on it. So basically, I was traveling, and I had Riley, my older dog, with a somewhat new dog walker. And I kind of landed on my airplane, and I got that dreaded, Lindsay, call me, I have an emergency with the dog. And, your heart just sinks. And anyone who has a dog or obviously like a child or any sort of person they love that gets that text, it's just, the worst feeling in the world. So basically I was pretty clear about how he just needs to not be in an off-leash setting. It was on his bio. I was using Rover, which has been incredible, by the way. They do dog walking and dog sitting. You can connect with local sitters and walkers. I'm only bringing them up because they really have been so great with all the customer support and dealing with me and being so flustered. So anyway, in his bio, it said no off leash. I just stay out of that, especially with people who don't know him for a super long time. Just kind of keep it off the table and play it safe. They ended up taking him to an off-leash park, and not exactly clear what happened, but he got attacked and mauled pretty bad, to the point where he had all bite marks all over his body, and his arm, one of his front arms, his left arm, was really badly damaged. So initially I spoke with the vet, and they were talking about possible amputation, and I was just over there. I was actually on the airplane, trying to deboard, trying not to just bawl my eyes out. Everyone's kind of looking at me like, what's she doing? And I was like, okay, trying to remain calm. But fast forward a bit, I had some amazing friends taking care of him while I was away. This was all during Christmas time, so you can imagine it was kind of hectic. He had lots of vet checkups. He was on lots of medications. His stitches ended up getting infected. He had to wear the sad cone for weeks and weeks. But luckily last week he had his final visit, and he's basically back to normal, and he had his stitches out, so he's running around, jumping, no more cone. So I guess the moral of the story is just find dog sitters, dog walkers, friends that you could really trust, and be as clear as possible, especially when it comes to off-leash situations, because you really never know, and I'm probably going to avoid them just because of this situation. I know it works for some dogs, but it just could be a little tricky, and I'm so happy that he's doing well, and he's healing up really well, and, he's on this vegan diet, and I think that if it was in any way doing him a disservice, he wouldn't be back on his feet literally so quick and just sprinting around and wagging his tail, and his hair's all growing back, and he's looking really good. He's just too energetic, honestly. I'm like, you need to calm down, but I love him, and he's doing really well. Thank you for asking about him, Chris. I'm sure he'd love to, jump on your lap and give you a kiss on the face, because he just does that to everyone.
Well, you knew where I was going. I wanted the moral of the story, so it was great. You knew exactly where I was going with that. I love it. But I am glad to hear, because I know I sent you an email recently, and I was like, so how's your pup? Because that was on my mind the whole time. I'm like, oh, no.
Thank you.
It does happen, and no worries. I always hate to hear of two things. I hate to hear of a child getting hurt or our family's pets. Whether it's our pet or somebody else's, it's the worst sound. I just can't handle it. It's sad. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to product line. Now, you guys have the breath bones, and I really kind of always like to go into that, because there are different companies out there, won't name names, but the ingredients are just not good. I detected that chuckle, so you know who I was talking about. But, you know, and there's the content of these chews is very important. And yet, you can't just throw a bunch of ingredients in there, call it a dog chew, and it's a dog chew. So I looked at what the ingredients were, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually really good. So I'm going to leave that one to you to kind of explain it to everybody, and because you're better at it than I am, and obviously, and kind of walk us through the actual the breath bones.
Sure. Yeah. So so funny. I have this like natural hesitation of even saying the word breastbone out loud because my dogs just totally spaz out, and but they're not around right now, so I'm safe to talk about it. But they are so yummy, and I say that I haven't tasted it myself, but they smell like cinnamon, and they're so packed with healthy ingredients like broccoli, chia seeds, parsley, carrot, spinach. There's some sweet potato in there. So this is the type of treat where I'm like, okay, my dogs eat healthier than I do. Like chia seeds, really? So, and they work really well to also help upkeep with oral hygiene. So my dog, Riley, who I was talking about earlier, is over 11, and he's never had his teeth cleaned. And at a recent checkup, the vet was just amazed at his teeth. He's like, you've never had his teeth cleaned? I'm like, no, how do they look? He's like, well, they look great. So that's a combination of him getting a breastbone every day, and then additionally, you know, his crunchy food and just not having meat rotting in his teeth really helps a lot. So just the lack of animal product bacteria sitting in there really helps. And then the breastbones really help kind of scrub away at their teeth a bit. So it's also another kind of somewhat unexpected benefit of this type of plant-based diet, and then a treat like this. And they just go crazy for them. Oh my gosh, they love them.
I say go for a ride or treat, and my dog gets excited, especially if it's sweet potato. She loves that. It's woo.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's what it is. You know, it's funny when you say chia seed. Every time I'm in the store and I see it, I cannot help but just go chia every time I see it. But again, I might be immature. You know, there's issues with me, obviously, in so many levels.
I love it. I vaguely remember those commercials. I think that was like in the 90s.
Yeah, you know, I think they were the biggest in the 90s. I think the 80s was the clapper. And I just remember those two things, chia and clapper. Those were the only things growing up. I remember that just full mindset into those two commercials. So anybody who is actually in our age bracket are like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Exactly.
Now, the other product you have is the Wiggle Biscuits?
Yes.
Please explain.
Sure. So they are amazing. Brand expert came up with that name after much deliberation, just because of that total like body wiggle your dog gets when they get so excited about food or a treat.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what these do. So these are peanut butter flavored, and they're actually our first USDA organic product. They're also made with non-GMO ingredients and human grade ingredients. And we use buckwheat flour as a base, which is a really nutritious, higher protein flour. These also don't have any grains. Our other products do, but these, we decided to leave out the grains just to switch it up. They have peanut butter, they have some banana, coconut oil, flax seeds, and cinnamon, and they smell super yummy, like a nice cinnamon cookie. And the dogs really love them. So that's our one treat, and we are actually coming out with a second flavor. You're the first to hear it. Well, maybe not the first, but one of the first. And we're really excited about that. It's going to be, oh geez, I don't know if I should spill the beans and tell you anymore, but we're going to come out with that in the next few months. So that's really exciting.
Well, now you're going to leave me in suspense? I mean, come on. After all we've been through, come on. Seriously? All right.
I'll tell you that it'll have blueberries in it.
Ooh.
That'll be yes. That's
I've seen
one tip.
I have seen a lot of hint of blueberries because one of the things I'm doing research about VDog is that you actually have on the photo a secondary photo which shows the backside, which is of course the one side that all of your dreaded big commercial pet companies don't want you to see. And they've said, we do not want you to read it. They've told me this. We don't want customers to read it. Nice. So you guys are very transparent in that area. And I do see blueberries on a constant where you'll see it in your back page, in your back of your dog bags. And I think that that's a very good thing. Our dog loves her blueberries. And so she's just, that's like the first thing, like, blueberry? Mine. So I was like, okay, I can see that. And blueberry, and then that would take the place of the banana. Is that correct?
Well, the main focus of our current Wiggle Biscuit is peanut butter and then the banana and coconut oil. So it'll have some similar ingredients. We're going to keep coconut oil in there, and there's also some additional coconut. So they smell very coconutty and super yummy. I've definitely tasted our Wiggle Biscuits, and they don't taste bad. I'll tell you that.
Well, a lot of the ingredients, except for the peanut butter, is in my dog's food every night. So those are definitely good. Now, here's the random, really weird question for you, and it's going to be a curveball, so I'm sorry. But, and I'm good at these. Cat food. You have no cat kibble. Now, why is that?
Oh boy, see, you think this is a curveball, but in reality, it's like our number one asked question. So I'm ready for it. No, so basically, we're called VDog. We're looking to focus on the dog products at this point. We're also coming out with another really big product this year that we've been working on. So we're really focusing on just kind of rounding out our line and focusing on providing the best plant-based dog products in the world that are on the market right now. So with that focus, we haven't explored the cat space yet. That being said, it is an entirely different world, and people get very, very, even more upset about it than the dog thing. There isn't quite something on the market right now that we believe is super sufficient as far as vegan cat food. We do feel that it's doable, since cats and dogs need ingredients, not certain foods. That being said, we also don't quite feel there's something on the market right now that we'd feel super, super confident in saying, this is it. Your cat will be super healthy on this vegan cat food that you can buy right now. On the other hand, we do have friends and family members who feed their cats various vegan cat foods, and they do fine, but it's just not quite there yet. It's not an across the board thing. Whereas dogs, they're definitely omnivorous. They can get all of the nutrients they need from plant-based sources. We've been doing that for more than a decade, and it's just the proof is in the pudding with that. Cat stuff's another story, and we don't have any plans for it right now, but I will tell you that so many people ask, and it's definitely something that is on our radar as far as more research and discovery and discussion.
Man, you started out hating on Halo. Now you're going after Vicado. Oh my God. This is just one of those.
Right, Vicado.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. In mind. Yeah, you have my number. No, the ones that I had in mind that we usually, Vicado is one of them, is Omnicat, and yes. I believe, I think that's the one that we mainly refer people to do their own research and, say how they feel about it. We'll just kind of say, we've heard of this brand and we know some cats do well in it. But yeah, honestly, we try to focus on the dog thing because there's just so much more ground to tackle on it. And it's just such a more comfortable space as far as our perspective. We know that dogs do well on this, and we're so confident and proud of it. And then we'd rather kind of focus on that than the cat stuff. But we do get asked about it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to follow the line in the curveball question. Now, it may not be something that you haven't been asked before, but it's always something I am curious because really, honestly, before this series, I had never had anybody on that was a dry kibble. And the reason is always simple. With dry kibble, the biggest complaint that I've been hearing not only from the veterinarians, but from actual consumers is the fact that there is so many things where there's renal failure, UTI, you have dehydration. And so that's the question I'm going to have is what advice do you give any of your customers about making sure to rehydrate their food?
Sure. So the first thing that we really like to point out as far as the difference between our kibble and pretty much all the other kibbles that contain meat products on the market is that when you heat an animal product, especially meat, up to the temperature where kibble is cooked, it creates carcinogenic compounds, whereas plant-based sources don't create those same compounds. So right off the bat, you have a less harmful formula since it is plant-based and it doesn't have the same ingredients that are being heated up. And I'm happy there's some research on this. I'm happy to send it to you, Chris, after we chat. In addition to that, we have never had any issues with dogs just eating the kibble, plain crunchy by itself. It's just really healthy and clean formula, so they do really well on it. But we do have a bunch of customers who will add water and add fresh food on top because their dog loves it and they feel more comfortable kind of adding in those fresh items. So we are always super supportive of what each individual customer comes to us with, and they say, oh, I heard that it's better if I add some water, or I really want to keep, steamed broccoli and some flaxseed on my dog's food. We're always super supportive from a point, they can absolutely thrive and do well on just the food by itself. And we have had thousands of dogs in that situation. But if you want to add the moisture, if you want to add fresh toppers, even better. And I think that that's kind of where we come from.
And I can honestly get behind it. I mean, we've already had discussions of how I feed, and I've made it very clear to everybody who's doing this. Look, I'm completely here to do this series to actually open up that line of communication, and I'm not here to say nope, it's not going to work. I want to actually have these conversations that I really don't think people really have that ability to do, because in our culture, it's almost this is the way I do it, so we all have to fall in line or get off the bus. I don't think that that's how we should do it. Now, with that said, there's always going to be different things that are going to come around, and that's just how it is. But one of the biggest, and I think you could say this is probably the biggest complaint or issue that you'll see in social media, you'll see on different blogs, you'll see anywhere, is that people pointing fingers saying the only reason why you would feed your dog or a cat a plant-based diet is because you're vegan and you're forcing your views on your dog. And that's one of the questions I want to have from you, and to get your perspective, and how would you handle that comment, and what would you say to those people?
Absolutely. Well, that's a perfect question, because I don't know if you've read the blog post, but we actually wrote a blog post called I'm Vegan, but I would never force that on my dog, because this is such an important question and topic. And basically what I break it down to in that post is something I kind of mentioned earlier. As an animal lover, if there is a food that meets all of my dog's nutritional requirements and that they love the taste of and requires killing no animals, why wouldn't I take that option? To me, it's just super simple. I went through the whole process back before I started with VDog. I found out about VDog before I started actually working for VDog. I just kind of went through that whole process of, okay, I'm not buying meat anymore, but I buy this for my dog. And that kind of makes me feel not right, but my dog needs that meat, or do they? That's when I started doing more research, and I found that dogs are omnivores. And then there's all of this information and tons of anecdotal stories online of dogs doing so well on a meatless diet. There's a bunch of studies. There was one done on sprint racing huskies where all of their blood test results came back just as good or better than the dogs on the same husky sprint racing team that were fed a meat-based diet. That's just one small example of some of the research out there. But what it comes down to is, we're their parents, and we have to do what's best for them. And in order to align that with our ethics as animal lovers, if there is a product out there that can cover all of these bases and your dog remains super healthy and vibrant and they love their food, kind of all just clicks together, and we just try to keep it simple.
Well said. And, it's one of those messages. I wanted you guys, all that are part of this series, to be able to be the voice. You're able to really be able to talk to all the full arena of not just the plant-based, not just the dry kibble with protein, with the meat protein, but everybody. And I think that it's needed. It's definitely a topic that is more emotional than anything else right now. And, it's kind of interesting to see where this goes, because it is, in reality, it's almost kind of like that hidden meal. You go to some places and, there's that hidden menu that they have in different restaurants and different fast food. It's kind of what plant-based was like when I started reading about it. It's like, I've never heard this. And in the research, it's interesting.
Yeah. And Chris, I just want to thank you so much for opening this conversation, because we love talking about it and coming from a place of just providing information and sharing so much of the positive experience we have with it. And we know that it's emotional. We're all animal lovers. We're very emotional people. We just have I think everyone that's emotional is because they have such a big heart for animals and they really want to do what's best. And we don't see it any other way. We welcome everyone to call us and email us with any questions. And we were just speaking actually with someone on the phone for quite a while earlier today who is feeding his dog raw meat, and he's considering this type of diet for his dog, and he asks incredible questions, and we deal with that every day. So we welcome anyone who is uncertain or feeling passionate in any direction about it. We're just happy to chat and go over it with people and provide the information we can.
Well, I think it's definitely needed. I think that we should all be able to sit down and have these conversations. Even if we don't understand it, we need to have the conversation to better understand. Since I started this, and I've been working on this for over a month now. And it's one of those things. I'm still completely unclear of a lot of different things, but I have a better understanding of it, which is probably the best and only thing I can ever ask for. What would be, in our last question that I have, what would be something that we did not cover or something that needs to be said about plant-based diet in our dogs?
Sure. I think one thing I could add is how incredible it is right now that you're covering this, coming off kind of the heels of the LA Animal Services decision, and how much press and attention the topic of plant-based diets for dogs is actually getting. I mean, it's a crazy time as far as the fact that so many news sources are talking about this, and it's an exciting time because we're so happy to provide our perspective and be able to say, we've been around for this long and here's our experience, and kind of let people decide what they think from there. And just having the floor opened up for this to even be a discussion is really incredible, and we're so thankful for that. And the reason is because dogs benefit. They're so healthy, and we're saving animals, and we're helping our planet. So all of those things all line up, and we're able to get that out into the world. It means everything to us, and we're grateful to be on your show, and just grateful that not everyone, but it's becoming more of a snowballing topic, and it's getting some attention. It's just so great.
And it's an absolute pleasure. Like I said when we spoke a month ago, I wasn't looking to discredit anything. I wasn't going to, put you on the stand and point out anything. That was never going to be my goal in this. Really, it's always been, let's talk about something that's important. And, you were great, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. I was so happy to be a part of it.
Well, anytime you want to come back, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
I think I've kind of fulfilled my time with you. You're probably like, okay, he's beaten me a few times. Now I'm going to go.
No, I'm so happy. Obviously, I'm very I love talking about this stuff, and I've been doing it for a while. So I'm so happy to provide our perspective. But I was going to say, careful what you ask for. Maybe we can go on the show, and I can send you some Wiggle biscuits to live taste test. I think that sounds like a fun episode.
I do those on Facebook. That's where I usually do all of it, is on our Facebook page, the Groomer Next Door podcast. And people send stuff, and I blog it up there, and people get to see the live action of it, and that's how I do it from that. It's kind of interesting.
There you go. Yeah,
well,
love it.
Well, this is Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go, it's my bedtime.